Good morning and welcome, and thank you for joining us today for EFA Remodel Renovation Competition, a review of the 2025 winners. This is a SAGE webinar presented by myself, Lisa Warnock, Jennifer Swasey, Liz Haverstick, and Corey Cappello. My name, again, is Lisa Warnock. I'm a longtime SAGE member and the current treasurer, as well as principal and founder of Glow Interior Designs based in Portland, Oregon. I am very excited to be moderating this webinar session today. And now I'd like to invite our panelists to introduce themselves. Let's start with you, Jennifer.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Swasey. I'm an associate at KDA Architects, where I'm also Director of Interior Design. Thank you for having me today.
I'm Liz Haverstick. I'm with RLPS Architects. I've been an interior designer here for 13 years now, and we're based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Corey Cappello, Senior Interior Designer at HKS. I'm based in Chicago and have been working in the senior living interior space for the last 10 years.
Fantastic. Thank you. Let's dive in. For those of you not familiar with SAGE, we are the Society for the Advancement of Gerontological Environments, a membership-based organization representing and promoting collaboration between all disciplines in the senior living industry. SAGE is pleased to present AIA-approved webinars every month. Careful planning and educational content presented by fellow colleagues in our professional field hopefully give you insight into a topic, or with any luck, maybe you learn something new. These webinars are free to SAGE members, and if you like what you see and hear today and are not yet a member, please consider visiting our website, sagefederation.org, for information on a SAGE membership. You will be muted throughout this webinar session. You'll have the option to type in any questions by clicking on the Q&A button at the top of your screen. We will endeavor to answer those at the conclusion of the session if time allows. Please keep your questions relevant to our topic that is being discussed. SAGE is an AIA-approved provider, and participants in this course are eligible for one AIA Learning Unit. Please note that you must be registered for and logged into the webinar to receive your AIA credit or certificate of completion. And please make sure that the name you use to log into the webinar corresponds to the name that you use for your registration. SAGE will report credits earned by course attendees to AIA CES and will provide certificates of completion within 1 week if requested. If you did not enter your member number or request a certificate of completion upon registration, please do email info@sagefederation.org. And the information today that we're presenting is protected by copyright. All right, here are our learning objectives for today. I'm not going to read them aloud, but go ahead and have a quick glance to make sure you're in the right webinar. And here are our learning objectives for today, which are a requirement of the CEU credit process. All right, let's dive in. Today, we will cover the remodel and renovation competition history and purpose, our 2025 project review process, information about each of the 3 award-winning projects that will be presented by the team member representative and followed by some jury comments, details on how to submit for the 18th annual 2026 competition, and how to become a juror for the 18th annual 2026 competition. And again, at the end of the session, we will hope to open up the floor to questions if time allows. All right, a little bit about the judging process. A jury of EFA and SAGE appointed individuals in the senior living industry were appointed to evaluate the 2025 entries. Jurors began by reviewing all project submissions and scoring each across specific program criteria, which then determined which projects would move to the top of the list. Then jurors were charged with ranking the top projects from highest to lowest to reveal the gold, silver, and bronze winners. That's a simplification of a very involved and deep process, but that kind of gives you high level there. It's a very rewarding process. I've served on several juror boards, and I would highly encourage anybody who's interested in serving as a juror for next year's to submit for that. Be on the lookout for an email from Lori at SAGE with, she's going to send you a webinar link, so a recording of this webinar, as well as a link to sign up if you're interested in becoming a juror for next year's competition. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our panel of jurors. It is a time commitment, and we thank you for your service. Each year, a multidisciplinary panel of jurors reviews the submissions. The jury panel could include developers, architects, interior designers, researchers, academics, regulatory experts, and providers. And jurors view the submissions through the lens of their own expertise, which is really great because people are looking at it from a lot of different angles. And then they rate the submissions and provide comments to help clarify their rationales for the rating before the group gets together to select the winners. And in case you are wondering, jurors are excluded from reviewing projects that either they or that the firms that they work in were a part of. They're not permitted to vote on it. That's what I'm trying to say. Also, as an FYI, all write-ups that we are showing today were provided directly by the submitting firms and were not edited for content by the EFA editorial staff. The 3 winning projects presented today stood out for successfully breathing new life into existing spaces to better meet the needs of all. During our session today, each presenter will describe their unique challenges and their design solutions. And this slide deck will be available to download, you'll get the link from Sage. That will also include the narratives of each team describing their project goals and outcomes. We include that along with the jury comments to help anybody interested in submitting their own project to understand what does a juror look for and what does a successful team narrative look like. All participating firms are included in the EFA remodel renovation session at EFA, as well as today's webinar, and the winners also appeared in the winter 2025 EFA magazine issue with a full-page feature of their project. The competition submissions come from all over the US and cover a variety of construction costs and project scopes. For more information about the 25 winners, go to the EFA website where you will see a gallery of all projects submitted to the competition last year, so you can explore even more outstanding renovations. And now for an in-depth look into our 2025 winners. Our projects were ranked by bronze, silver, and gold. And congratulations to all of you here today presenting your fantastic projects. Let's start with the bronze project. This project is called the Osborne and is a social lounge located in Rye, New York, with a total renovation cost of just under $450,000 and a cost per square foot of $312. Residents served here are independent living residents. The project completed November of 2024, and here to present the project today is Jennifer Swasey, Associate and Interior Design Director of KDA Architects. Please take it away, Jennifer.
Thank you, Lisa. Happy to do so. Okay, so this first picture that you're seeing here, a before shot, is we picked this particular photo to start with because of its importance as like the first experience that you have walking into the space. There's a main entrance door directly behind you as you're standing here in this lobby space. But before I get too deep into what we're looking at here, I did want to give a little bit of history about the community. The Osborne Senior Living is located in Westchester County in a desirable area just outside of New York City. It was founded in 1908 by Miriam Osborne, with the original Grand Estate building designed by famed architect John Sterling. So fast forward to today, and the community has grown in size and in footprint. And the Osborne is undertaking currently a master planning initiative in response to market demands. During this process and leading up to this process, the residents have become quite vocal about the need to have an amenity space to socialize and have casual meetups, which the owner recognized needed to be provided now, while the longer task of overall campus renovations began to take shape. So after several discussions, the design team identified this lounge area in the photo here as the ideal location for the social space. It occupies a highly visible and important location in that it's positioned along the main corridor that connects the community's 3 independent living apartment buildings. It's also adjacent to one of the main dining venues that are there. So we were thinking this could allow for it to be an ideal pre-function space. Clearly, this area it was not designed to support a larger group and was challenged by dim lighting, low ceilings, and furnishings that did not reflect today's trends, nor the vibrant personality of the community or the residents that call the Osborne home. Next slide, please. So here we have our first after photo. After we decided on the where, the second most important question we had to answer was the what, as in what is the organizing feature that brings people together and invites them to stay longer. After much discussion between the owner, residents, and the design team, all agreed a coffee bar would be the perfect solution for the space. During the day, it functions as an informal area for residents to enjoy people watching or reading the paper while sipping their cup of joe. Further, the comfortable seating area in the center also plays host to the community's active book club. There's discrete drawers that are built into the custom millwork beyond that you can see flanking the fireplace there. And that's where the members store their books for discussion and for sharing. The space also has dining tables that can act as game tables, same with the chairs that are surrounding them. And this supports both the dining and game activities that the residents requested that we incorporate there. One of the challenges the design team had to solve was preventing the seating from migrating into the corridor that occurs along the edges of the space. One tactic we employed to help with this effort was dropping a custom area rug in the center of the wood look porcelain tile flooring. Not only does the rug function as a decorative feature, but also creates an island where the furniture is not likely to move from. Next slide, please. Another before photo. Here you're looking down to the left of the main circulation corridor. The space is very drab and dimly lit, even though there were multiple floor-to-ceiling windows, which you can kind of sneak a peek of in the back there. You can get a sense of how separate the original lounge was from the circulation space. This was also the first impression residents and their guests would experience, as I had explained earlier, as it was the first view that you had walking into the main independent living building. Next slide, please. And then the after photo here, you have a better view of the coffee bar island that serves as both the main feature as well as the grounding element in the space. We understood that with several types of seating in the room, it was really important to have some major built-in feature that would help keep furniture from moving around too much and help continue to some sense of organization, but allow for flexibility with the other pieces. It also serves to reinforce that invisible boundary that I was telling you about between circulation space and gathering space. Also, you can see in the back right corner of the photograph, there's wine lockers for the residents, another feature that truly allows this space to be multifunctional and support the dining amenity that's just around the corner with before dinner cocktails or a post-meal nightcap. We were also challenged with the ceiling and the lighting. There were existing steel beams in heights and locations that were not evident from the limited existing structural plans that we inherited. And I have to give mad props to our architect, Danielle Magnata. I give her a lot of credit for how beautifully the ceiling turned out. The existing ceiling conditions really gave us a run for our money, but we just refused to surrender to this existing condition, and this is one of those examples where the end result was better than the original design. Lighting design was also critical to brighten the space, and the finishes were intentionally on the lighter side, especially on the walls, to really help make the space feel bright and warm, which also helped bring the natural light deeper into the room. It was really important to balance the lighter walls with some contrasting elements within the room. So the intentional darker furniture pieces and built-in millwork were helped to just make the room feel a little less predictable. Next slide, please. And then in this, I believe this is our final before photo. We're standing further down that main corridor, and the lounge, the original lounge, is off to the right in the far back. You can also see a mail room just through that cased opening that's adjacent to the original lounge. Although the mailroom wasn't part of the renovation project originally, the design team knew the lounge area and the corridor around it would not function well enough without an expanded footprint. The owner agreed to let us move this mailroom just down the hall in an area that looked very similar to this, actually. As luck would have it, that other area also had a mailroom, which we combined with this mailroom and opened up to the other corridor, making a second casual meetup area. And I mention all of this backstory because I want to give an encouraging note to anyone that's struggling with a project that has a small footprint. If you can find a way to shift functions that maybe the owner hadn't considered, it can serve as an opportunity to create multiple new great spaces. Next slide, please. And here you can see a better shot of the bar, as well as how much more natural light floods the room. The space has been really wonderfully received by the residents, the staff, and their guests. The space is used consistently, constantly, and it supports so many events. Over the last holiday, the owner sent us videos of the residents being entertained by young children's caroling group. It was really sweet and also very noisy, which brings up another important feature, and that's acoustics. We used acoustical drywall in the ceiling to ensure that the space would be both beautiful and acoustically comfortable. Next slide, please. So here is the existing floor plan. You can see a little bit more broader scope of what the original project encompassed. So there's the original lounge in the bottom right corner, the adjacent mailroom just planned north of that. You can see what they had called was a lobby was really just a very large corridor. And then planned north was another vestibule that led out into an interior courtyard. The owner had asked us to also try to engage that space in this renovation, and you'll see how we address that in the next slide. Another critical issue that we were dealing with was how to deal with the heating and cooling in the space. You can see in the existing plan here, the entry vestibule is immediately attached to that lobby space, which was not allowing us to maintain a constant temperature. And you can see there's a considerable walking distance from that entry vestibule to the pickup drive off to the left there. So if you could go to the next slide, please, Lisa. Now you can see one of the other important aspects of this project was the vestibule expansion. So we took out the pair of interior doors. We expanded the entry vestibule. Now you've got an exterior door that's significantly further away from the lounge space. And we created a seating area in there that allows the residents to get closer to their pickup and drop off point. And now also, if you look back to the lounge space, you can get a sense of how the furniture really is anchored by the carpet and the millwork. And then you can also see how in the vestibule area planned north, we created some built-in seating with some tables. And what we found interesting about this solution was that we understand residents who want to be near the activity, but not necessarily part of the activity, really do enjoy spending time in that vestibule. So it's been great to see how the different types of seating and arrangements have really just supported residents in all of all types, all types of preferences. Thank you. So our team narrative, I'll limit what I recap here. It's a lot of what I just discussed. In closing, I'll say that the results have just been overwhelmingly positive. It was really important that we understood the goals that the owner was trying to achieve, and really spent a lot of time perfecting the floor plan. We were very fortunate that we had an owner that was willing to look at multiple iterations until we got it right. And then I guess in one final note, the last sort of feature that allowed for the residents to truly make the space their own was when we handed the space off, the art hadn't been decided on yet. and the resident committee was able to select artwork from their own archives, have it rematted and framed for the space. And I think it was just a really great collaboration between all partners and allowing for the residents to just truly have that last mark on the space to call it their own.
Thank you so much. What a fantastic transformation. And just for all those listening, you know, I think a lot of people get nervous to submit smaller projects, but as you saw from the before and after there, that was a transformational change for that building and for those residents. So please don't be afraid to submit for the smaller ones as well. Here's a sampling of some of the jury comments to give you a little bit of indication of how the jurors think and communicate about the projects. I won't read them all, but I'll highlight my favorite, which was, although modest in scale and restrained in execution, this transformation is a striking example of how thoughtful design can elevate a space from a simple corridor alcove to a vibrant community gathering spot. So well done to you and your team, Jennifer. Thank you so much for presenting that to us today. We're going to move on to our Silver Award winner. This project is named Willow Valley Manor Community. It's a lobby located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, with a total renovation cost of $8.9 million, total cost per square foot of about $331. Residents served here again are independent living. The project completed in April of 2023. And here to present is Liz Haverstick, interior designer at RLPS. Liz, take it away.
Okay. So this space is really like the center of one of their campuses. So what you don't see in this picture is the 3 different corridors that are coming into this area, all at different angles. So this is their main lobby. It was a large octagon, something that's been very prominent on their campus, but they wanted to detract from that. And once you get beyond this space, really you were moving through rooms to get to an area. So it was really divided, a lot of small personal spaces, but they really wanted to create this social hub. Could you go to the next picture, please? So this is the after of that view. So one thing that they had talked about previously is that that lobby felt like a furniture showroom. There was furniture everywhere. There wasn't really a central element that, you know, really engaged anyone. So no one really came to sit in this area. So when we were working through this, we decided to use a 4-sided fireplace as a focal point. It gave a little bit of screening walking in from like the bar area that you can see there to the left in the photo. But it still gave a visual to just see what was happening in the social activity in the space. To the right in this photo, you can see the mezzanines for the upper 2 levels. And again, it was just this idea of how can they make the space interactive? If you're at the gym, you can look out on the space, or if you're up in the library, you can see who's hanging out at the bar. And one of the challenges too that you'll see as we move through was we took away all these smaller spaces. So how can we make these spaces still feel like they have a home, even though they're a part of a much larger open area? So in the bar, we have a different flooring, and then we'll have smaller seating groupings throughout. Next slide, please. This is another view in that lobby area. This is looking to where the reception desk was. It was tucked away. That person wasn't really brought into that space. They kind of were tucked away and forgotten about a little bit. So we wanted to pull that out, make it a little bit more prominent. So next slide. So you look through that fireplace area and to the reception. So gave them a nice focal wall, some branding on that. The desk had a nice pop to it. So it felt a lot more welcoming if you were coming into the space as a visitor to approach that. Made it nice and accessible for residents as well. Next slide, please. So again, another view of the octagon. You can see how closed off the space was previously. So this wall got blown out, and when you move beyond it, you'll see that the bar area. And really, the owner, with wanting to make this a social hub, um, it just like it has expanded immensely. We're currently ordering more furniture for this area, so it definitely has worked well for them. So if we can go to the next slide, we'll see that bar area. Like I said, we're getting more dining chairs and bar seating. Um, Post-COVID, I think this is something that they really needed. This works as a coffee bar in the morning and a bar in the evening. Um, and yeah, so just to talk through a few challenges for this project, we had a lot of structural columns that were challenging to work with, the orientation of them, the sizes. And so really when we were getting into peeling away these walls and layers, um, it made for some interesting conversations with the contractor and architect of how we were going to treat it. So you saw in some of these photos, the columns we had rounded out to make it a little bit easier for circulation. Um, to the left of that octagon in the lobby, you can see where one of the existing corridors came in to that space. And then up in the upper right-hand corner where the other two corridors are coming. So we have this nothing's really aligned for great circulation. And up to the left-hand corner was a main dining room, or is a main dining room, that people are really traversing through. So how could we make it feel like there is a path to circulate around, especially with adding that bar right in the center? So that's why we gravitated towards some of these curves. It just felt a little bit more gentle and natural to circulate around them. And really that open floor plan, how do you give each space a home? So again, that bar had that bulkhead over it that was really grounding it. And then some of those other areas, we used wall treatments to really define those zones to make them feel like they weren't just floating in space. Um, Next slide. So this is the final furniture plan. We don't have our actual floor finishes shown on this floor plan, but that green area is where that bar zone is. So you can see we had all those columns in that area to really encapsulate in that flooring and think about as people are walking through that space. And just we do have some really large open areas without furniture, but because of all of these different paths of travel, it made a lot of sense once you're in the space itself. So if you go to the upper part of the plan, upper right, we had some of those smaller zones for more intimate conversations. Those sofas are underneath the mezzanine. We had a small piano lounge area that also acted as like if someone wanted to do like a wine tasting club, there's a nice credenza piece that we had done built in there that just gave a nice home for that. Obviously, the seating around the fireplace was another smaller intimate zone. But like I had said, this bar area was kind of the heart of what we were doing, and it is just expanding like crazy. So definitely successful for this owner. Next slide. So team narrative, really I'll just kind of tackle the wants of what the owner had given us the task, was to create the social hub, eliminate the separation of spacing, and really just, again, traversing through room to get to your destination, detracting from that octagonal shape and making it not feel like a furniture showroom, and actually use the areas and spaces.
All
That's
right. Thank you so much, Liz. Wow, that is like those before and afters are so striking. I could barely believe that those were the same two places until I looked at it on the floor plan. So well done. That was quite a glow up. Jury comments here as well. Won't hit on them all, but one commented that's creative floor plan solution to transform an awkward lobby into a clear and functional space in this project is commendable. The designer successfully reconfigured what was once a maze of spaces into a light-filled atrium that organizes circulation and simplifies wayfinding. This was certainly not an easy task. So well done to you and your team, Liz. That was fantastic. Okay, now on to the gold winner project. This project is called Battery Park by Sunrise. It is a renovation and functional reprogramming of the community's multi-purpose and social space. Located in New York, New York, total renovation costs of $9.5 million. Right here in that same sweet spot of about $330 a square foot. Independent living residents served here, and the project is anticipated to complete in August of this year. Here to present is Corey Cappello, project interior designer and vice president at HKS.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
We can go to the next slide. Perfect. So this was an existing community in the super urban area of New York, Manhattan. And so as you can see in this image, very similar to the last two award projects, very dimly lit, lots of dark colors. You can certainly tell when this was last renovated just based on the finishes. And what you're getting a peek of on the right-hand side as well as their existing courtyard. Part of this project was a huge focus on expanding the interior to the exterior and really being able to capitalize on the space that they had exterior. A reason for that is a lot of these communities that are in New York or other very urban areas, it's hard to come by exterior square footage. And so when you have it, you really want to exemplify it and take advantage of it. And so if we go to the next slide, you start to see that we incorporated larger height, movable partitions that actually open up and can expand both the interior built environment into the exterior courtyard, which was also expanded upon. And over to the left-hand side, what you're seeing is opening to more of their culinary programming. Their dining venue is through that kind of opened arch on the left-hand side of the render here. Next slide. Here is the space that you kind of enter into this existing multi-purpose space. And so, again, I think when we all think back to communities or spaces that were reprogrammed in the past 10 to 15 years, the problem with them is that none of them really had a true function. Everything was so multi-purpose that what ended up happening is now in 2025, 2026, residents don't really know what to use these spaces for. And that's apparent in this photo here where there's so many entrance and exit points within these spaces. There's no real programmed furniture. There's no real programmed activities, which also then makes it really difficult for staff and the operator to understand what these spaces are also to be really meant for. So if we go to the next slide, what we were able to do is create more kind of bespoke environments within this larger space so that residents actually had a program for it. And adjacent to, on the left-hand side, that exterior courtyard, you're able to kind of use those spaces in tandem, which is something that the community really wanted and wasn't able to do before. In terms of design challenges, what I think is also fairly obvious is the number of columns that were in the existing space, which we also obviously had to maintain in the refresh repositioning. And so you see that here. But from a design standpoint, it was really about being able to create these new kind of lighter interpretations of these spaces, but using classic materiality in unexpected ways. And also keeping into consideration, obviously, acoustics. So where we had hard surface flooring, being able to incorporate more of acoustic ceiling treatments, which you're seeing here, which looks like wood. And so we were able to really meld all of that together and create a space that residents could both enjoy with or without staff present, as well as be proud of and have guests enter these spaces. And from a circulation standpoint and wayfinding, really understanding how important opening up these spaces were so that you could have that transparency from first impression into more of these program spaces, to create more of that continuity between the community. Next slide. So the floor plan here is the before plan, and the space that was winning this award is the space that's essentially centrally located, this multi-purpose room. And to the plan north, you see that exterior courtyard. And really, this project with Sunrise as the operator, as well as the collaboration between us, HKS, and curated by Sunrise, really started as a light refresh with a couple of walls being relocated and demoed, but really turned into a larger repositioning effort to accommodate all of the amenities and programming that came out of multiple visioning sessions with all of the stakeholders, including residents, their families, staff, and then obviously Sunrise as the operator as well. The goal really was to create an experiential living environment where adults can enrich their lives through bespoke wellness-focused programming, personalized and attentive spaces with thoughtful interactive amenities, and elevated culinary offerings surrounded by luxurious materials. If we go to the next slide, the after, this is where you're really starting to see all of those programming adjacencies work together. And so in the middle there with the rendered floor, that you can see that as our space that has won the Gold Award for 2025. What you're seeing in plan is kind of a large millwork piece over to the right with some built-in seating, as well as loose seating throughout the space with an additional handful of four-top tables, all of which can be moved to focus on the activity or amenities that are being programmed within the space. And you're also seeing that kind of dual amenity adjacency for the culinary as well as first impression when you walk through reception towards the south of the plan. So this was really important to the community because again, they had all of these spaces, but not enough information or enough technology or enough furniture or enough from a programming standpoint to really be able to utilize these spaces to their full potential. And so through those visioning sessions, we were able to understand what the goal was for the community and what the goals were for the residents, what kind of amenities or spaces they were wanting. And this was a huge space that previously the multipurpose room was actually in the lower level of this community, which had no natural daylight. And it also had terrible lighting. And so residents actually said that at night, when it's so dimly lit in the lower level, they felt kind of creeped out walking down there. And so another reason that that space was so poorly utilized. So bringing that up to this first floor really made a difference in how residents were going to perceive this space and how excited they were to be able to have this completed and actually spend time in it. Next slide. I think what's important, and we mentioned this at EFA, and I think everyone got a huge kick out of it, but in one of the first visioning sessions, we asked Sunrise, what flavor of ice cream is Battery Park? And after a couple giggles and a couple laughs, the staff and the team over at Sunrise came back and said, right now, unfortunately, it feels like it's kind of melted vanilla. And I think that really put it into perspective for everyone working on this project that, it sounds like such a silly question and such a funny icebreaker, but when you really start thinking about it, what kind of ice cream flavor would you want your community be? And as the weeks and the months progressed in design, that idea also evolved. And so what went from melted vanilla ended up becoming traditional vanilla, and they wanted it to be all of the same things that Manhattan is, right? And so it has all of this kind of classic architecture and detailing, but all these fun little pops and neighborhoods within Manhattan. And so then it evolved into vanilla ice cream, but allowing residents to add their own flair, whether it's the M&Ms or the Reese's Pieces or what have you. And through some really kind of pointed conversation, we ended up with Battery Park being the ice cream parlor, they want to be able to offer any ice cream that a resident is wanting, any kind of programming, any kind of activity. And ultimately, the team really wanted the energy within Battery Park to feel like the first day of college. One of the Sunrise staff shared that, what they're really looking for is every day to be new and exciting and full of opportunity. And ultimately, that was the comparison between the ice cream shop and Battery Park. And so, with that, the design drivers for this project really became prioritized around user experience, the connection to the city of obviously Manhattan, the arrival sequence, more of a upscale dining gathering experience, multiple different activities that were not offered beforehand, as well as incorporating the outdoor spaces and wellness. And I think ultimately, we're really excited for this project to complete later this year. And we really can't wait to kind of get in and do a POE and really hope to hear that the spaces that we've designed are really giving the residents what they were after from day one. So thank you.
Thank you, Corey. That was great. As you can see, the jurors were really excited about this project, obviously, as they gave it the Gold Award. Beautiful, beautiful transformation. I love the ideation session you started with the ice cream analogy, and yeah, sometimes you just want to be properly frozen vanilla ice cream, I guess. One comment that resonated is at the heart of this renovation is a thoughtfully executed indoor-outdoor connection that dissolves boundaries, inviting in natural light, fresh air, and a heightened sense of openness. Large openings, expansive glazing, and fluid transitions between interior and exterior spaces, creating a living environment that feels both expansive and intimately connected in its surroundings. And I would agree that you did a great job with that, Corey, and your team. Thank you so much. All right, so now that you've heard from all these wonderful award-winning projects, hopefully that's inspired you to want to submit your own project, all of you out there listening in the audience today. And you still have 2 weeks. Reservations are due June 30th, and presentations don't have to be submitted till July 15th. So you've got time. Competition is open for submissions. The submissions will focus on a single space. So you can pick a dining space, lounge, activity, lobby, any resident space. As you saw, some of the award winners today had quite a few different spaces in their project, but they kind of focus in on one for the actual submission. Another panel of experts will be assembled to review all submissions and determine the gold, silver, and bronze winners for 2026. The winners will receive special recognition at our annual EFA conference in spring of 27. And the bonus coverage of their projects in the fall issue of EFA magazine. All of the submitted projects will be published in the Remodel Renovation Gallery fall issue with a quarter-page project description and photos, allowing readers the opportunity to view all of the competition entries. And award-winning projects will be upgraded to a full-page spread, as well as the additional exposure we've talked about. Projects must have been completed between October of 2023, so you can go back a few years, and the time of submission. EFA will also accept projects in progress, and unbuilt and conceptual designs. You just need to include really high quality renderings for those submissions. Again, reservations due June 30, presentations due July 15th. Entry fee with quarter-page feature is $735 per submission, which honestly, that's a great ROI with all that exposure you get. Entry fees will be invoiced when the issue mails on October and are non-refundable. For more information about this, contact Donna Hidalgo, and her email address and contact information is on that slide there. See it on the left-hand side. Okay, so we want to encourage you all to submit for 2026 for our annual 18th competition, but do, along with your images, please tell the story of your renovation project. The jurors can be real fussy about seeing just, beauty pageant projects. None of us are here just to create only beautiful spaces. We really want to understand how your project impacts the lives of the residents, the staff members, and of course the operator in a beneficial way. So Please provide a very legible floor plan. Include great pictures. Make sure as you're starting a renovation, you take pictures from the same angle, if the before of where you're pretty sure your after shot is going to be really impactful. Those are the most easy for the jurors to understand as they're looking through, dozens and 20, 30 potential submissions, is to make it easy for them. Make it easy for them to understand the floor plan. Make it easy for them to see the before and after shot. So look for that wow factor, and then define the difference maker and the impact in your narrative. That's why we included some of those narratives today, to show you what a successful team narrative looks like. Offer how the operator benefited from the improved design, and submit a dynamic team narrative written by the project team, not by your marketing team. We want to hear from those who lived and breathed the project. All right, this concludes the AIA CES education portion of the course, but we do have, what have we got? We've got 14 minutes left for Q&A. You should see a Q&A button in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, and just click on that to type your question. I don't see the Q&A section, Lori. Where am I looking? Oh, okay, I found it. All right. Any questions out there in the audience? I'm sure you must be dying to ask a question, somebody. No questions? All right. Well, I'm going to give you a minute to think about that. Also, everybody's email addresses are included here if you're just a little shy and want to ask a question at a later date. But I will start with a question to give people more time to think about what they might want to ask. And I'm going to ask this one. Remodels always represent unique challenges and opportunities in ways that new construction does not. They're a lot more challenging. What was your biggest lesson learned / key takeaway that you discovered, maybe in design or in construction, in your project, and how did you overcome it? Any of you three can, I'd love to hear from all of you, so go ahead and just jump in.
I would say for the social lounge, probably one of the biggest challenges was just the unknown conditions. I think we all kind of brace ourselves when we know we're getting into a renovation, because unless you have amazing as-built, there's always going to be surprises. And I think if you can go into it with an attitude of what is the potential opportunity here behind the setback, I think you can create an outcome that, again, is better than maybe what you had originally anticipated. I think it's ideal to have, a blank slate where we're not being pushed and pulled, but that ceiling condition, the existing beams that we didn't know about, the inability to create holes in the floor and in the ceiling like the way we needed to in order to run certain mechanical equipment. It all challenged the space and the project, but everybody just got on board with, okay, well, how can we respond to this, and how can we make it better? So I think it's just not putting the pencil down, knowing that you don't want to continually, reinvent the wheel, but there's going to be times through the CA process that you're going to have to reconsider and let go of a design feature that you loved in lieu of something else. And oftentimes it can work out better.
Yeah, well said. Liz or Corey, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. I know for us, we had such a large open volume. Some of the elements that we were bringing to the space were a very large scale. So just thinking through and coordinating with the contractor of like, hey, we have this really large chandelier. Where are we getting this through the building since it's an existing space? Fortunately for us, we had a really large window that was being removed to get some of these items through. But really just how important it is, like, once it's pencils down, when we get into that construction phase, like how important it is to just have such a close relationship with the construction partner. And for this project, we worked with a different architect as well. So just keeping that really great line of communication open.
Yeah, for sure. Corey, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would say actually in our case, because this project really started as more of a light refresh, that the challenge for us was once we got into this kind of larger comprehensive repositioning that scaled multiple floors, it really became more of an operational issue in terms of phasing and understanding how we weren't going to impact negatively existing residents. Because ultimately we ended up touching almost every amenity space. So that I think is always a challenge, especially when a project starts out small and then ends up with a larger scope. Um, and, the Sunrise team was incredible at being able to navigate that. Of course, it's not their first renovation or
Yeah.
repositioning that they've had to do. But you never really know how that's going to go, whether it's an experienced operator or not. And so I think that was something that we really focused in on.
Yeah. Okay. Got a couple questions from the audience. We have an anonymous attendee that asked Liz a question. Liz, love the name Perk and Pint. How did that come to be?
So the owner had worked with another company to on their branding, but I was involved in those conversations, and really the Perk and Pint came from, the perk being the morning coffee that you can go and get at that multifunctional bar, and then the pint being the evening. So that's how that name came about, working with other partners.
Great. And kind of dovetailing on that question, Sarah asked, to any of the designers, how did you or the operator engage the residents during the design process? Anybody want to jump in on that one?
It's always like touch and go when you're doing this virtually because you
I know.
never know who's going to go. Um, in terms of resident engagement, yes, we had, as I mentioned, multiple kind of visioning sessions as well as different workshops. And so depending on the workshop, we would bring in different stakeholders. So we started with the operator and the client, moved into staff, and then ended with residents and their families. And the reason for that kind of progression is that, you know, one, residents often are not resident or architects or designers, and they don't really understand kind of the jargon that we talk about design and construction with. Um, Additionally, we never want to come to anyone with open-ended options. And so we kind of trickle down from client to staff to residents so that by the time we get to residents and their family, we're sharing more of what the deliverable is going to be with the opportunity for feedback, criticism, as well as compliments, just so that they understand that we're listening to them. The staff and the people who are working in those spaces can give us constructive feedback to how we are going to plan and develop and design these spaces. And then from an operational standpoint, to really understand what the larger needs are for the community, as well as making sure, obviously, that there will be a great ROI for the operator as well.
Thank you. Anybody else want to add to that?
Because our project was relatively smaller and is occurring in tandem with a larger master plan renovation, our engagement with the resident committee was limited, and a lot of the correspondence was more through the owner. There was a resident committee that the owner introduced us to, and we had, a fair amount of back and forth and understanding what the needs were, what they were looking for. Even down to what the average book size was so that we understood how we could accommodate the book club, and how they were going to be using the space. So there was a lot of interaction more so with the staff on this because of the main thoroughfare that the social lounge is adjacent to. And I think what started off as a, maybe a smaller project, a more simple project, kind of expanded. And I think the residents were really pleased with the final result. I think the expectation was it was going to be something smaller and a less robust renovation. And when they got to see the final result, which was pretty significant and a dynamic change to the space, they were really, really excited and surprised.
That's great.
I do have something to add to for my client. So something that I love that they've done for their other projects, and this one as well, when we're concluding drawings and things like that, we do a large resident presentation with a contractor. So to really generate excitement, answer questions that they might have. But I think the biggest one too, especially with bringing the contractor in, is we can have discussions about how that might impact their daily lives while things are under construction. So I think that was a really beneficial way to involve the residents.
Great. All right, we've got 5 minutes left. Victoria asked Corey a question. I think, Corey, you kind of answered part of this already. Can you get a little further into the project, starting out as a refresh and growing into a much larger project? We know budget. Yep, you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what really ended up happening here is that, like I said, this community really is multiple levels. Obviously, what we won the award on is just this one space, and so you're not really seeing the multitude of all the different programmatic changes that have happened. But I feel like probably Jennifer and Liz have gone through this, as has any other designer who's probably on this call, is that sometimes we end up with clients who think that the square footage of their property or their community is enough for all of the additional amenities or enhancements they want to include. And it was very early on when we came onto this project that we learned that all of their different needs were not going to fit within the spaces that they had. And so ultimately, that's how that project started to evolve into a much more comprehensive repositioning and not so much a light refresh or renovation of their existing spaces. So we really looked at the multiple floors and then figured out what spaces made the most sense for the different floors. So for example, how I mentioned the existing multi-purpose social space was on that lower level that had no natural daylight, was very dimly lit. When we started getting into the larger kind of repositioning effort, that made more sense for the theater to exist there rather than this lively, engaged social space. And so obviously then with that, there are different conditions and AV needs, technology that the theater needs than maybe more of this social space / culinary venue needs. So that's how that project evolved. And I think, again, Sunrise being a very experienced operator, they were very abreast to the financial changes that would accompany a larger repositioning effort. And so, with always understanding that the project had also evolved and grew, we were very cognizant when it came to materiality, and just understanding how we can get the biggest bang for our buck without really going from a smaller budget to a larger budget and really overwhelming everyone. So I think that is something that we always, try to pay very close attention to.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I am going to wrap us up here and thank you all for joining us today. A special thank you to our panelists for joining me today and sharing your time and your expertise. And in just a moment, you'll be prompted to fill out a course evaluation survey. We'd appreciate hearing your thoughts on today's session, and all webinar registrants will receive a link to the recording of today's session via email within a few business days. On behalf of SAGE, thank you all for joining us today.